All right, joining us on the show, you know her, you love her, Emmy Award winner. Do you get an Emmy when Yes wins? What's happening, Sarah Kustok? Sarah, how are you?
I'm amazing. I'm honored to be on
Do,
the show.
do you get an Emmy? Do you have one? Do you have like multiple?
Is
Are they
this
like
is
just off
this
camera?
is this not the time to turn my
Oh, you may need more shelf space for those Emmys. How
Oh
cool is it?
no, no,
Is
no,
that
no.
cool?
I
Is
just like
that
the
fun?
plant you know what? It's me, the plant in the window. That's how we keep it.
Is it, does it, like I know you played basketball at DePaul, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So when you were playing basketball at DePaul, did you think you'd win an Emmy? Was that part of your grade scheme
I
of
didn't think I'd
things?
be in TV. I thought it'd be in a hat and a hoodie. And guess what? I can still do that in
You can
some
still do that
capacity.
podcast.
Yeah.
What was
No,
that like when you
here's the
won your
deal.
first Emmy of one of
Here's the
three?
deal. It's hard when Ian Eagle might as well have the Emmy
Oh,
named after him. And wins it every
the
year. And
Eagle.
like,
The Eagle is a great
yes.
award name. Come on. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just gonna call it the Eagle. So it's kind of like, oh, good. Keep up. Keep up, girl.
You know what I got?
That's how it feels.
I'll send this to you, but Serena Williams did an Architectural Digest walkthrough of her home, and she went to her trophy room. And if you only can imagine what Serena Williams'
Room
trophy
or
room,
rooms?
she has multiple rooms of trophies, but there is one trophy room, and she's going through and like picking up a plate, and she's looking at it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, this is this is Wimbledon, whatever, 2006." Like she just like picked.
Like it's no thing.
Yeah. Like I
Like
went
it's
to
no thing.
Target and I got some plates from Magnolia,
Yeah.
the
And I'll
Chip and
probably give
Joe.
them away.
Yeah, she's like, no big deal. I mean, she was being respectful, but also like, hey, I've
Yeah.
won
It's how it
30 of these.
is.
Um, so I'm so glad to have you on.
Thank you. Truly. I listen to you
Because
guys all the time.
that just warms my heart. I appreciate that. One of three listeners, so that's so exciting.
No.
Uh, um, the Nets, I've got to say, we were just joking about like, it's preseason basketball. So like how much do you want to lock in? Can I ask you first in general, when you do watch preseason basketball, what are the things that you think about that actually have applicable sort of standards going forward? Is there things you can lock in on and say, this may matter? Because there are times when you watch it, like there was a possession, I forget what, I think it was the first preseason game, where Royce O'Neal's just kind of like standing in the corner and not doing anything. And I love what I've seen from Royce, but I'm like, it's a preseason game. Like, what is he supposed to do? He's not going to be, doing the JJ Redick run around the 3-point line, try to get open. So what do you see from preseason that you actually
Yeah,
take
I
away?
think for as much as we talk about, which I'm curious about, I'm interested in, but the fact that the offense is going to have new nuances, wrinkles, the adaptations that we're going to see from it in terms of options, parts of that I'm interested to see, while also in the back of your mind, to your point, knowing that it may the effort level varies, and that's understandable. I think guys play at their own pace, and I think they take it as what's best for them, what's best for their bodies, what's best for trying to warm themselves up for the season, for lack of a better way to describe it. So I'm just interested, like, is there a rhythm? Is there a flow? Last night against Milwaukee, like you saw more of a rhythm, a flow, the ball popping. How is even like Ben? I mean, I know obviously Ben is someone that we are antennas up, how he looks, but how is he moving? Like, how is he pushing the ball to the floor? This is not, to me, like there is a different level of engagement for every player, I think, when they go from the preseason to the regular season. But just how their movements in just in terms of health, like we're obviously waiting for Joe Harris, Seth Curry to come back. But I think overall there's a lot of that. Royce O'Neal, like to me, watching him shoot, like he releases the ball so quickly. How he's able to find different spots on the floor. What are you doing defensively in certain possessions? I think it's an off and on type of thing. But I think just overall, like getting a feel for some of the new players, what they look like, how some of the older players or former players or players that are back, I should say, just fit in like the chemistry of the group. And I think overall, I've been fortunate to sit in practices. So to me, like there is such a great value in watching what they look like in scrimmages, how they look in 5-on-5, what are they doing in these individual work, and how that continues the foundation set, how that builds on itself as they get set for the regular season. And so I don't know. I think with this group, like there's a lot of things you start to understand, you start to learn. The first two preseason games were not that great, but I also think a lot of that could be tied to the effort level, and that however you want to look at it and however you want to gauge that, to me, it's like that's part of it. That's part of however guys take in these early parts of the preseason, and they're going to ramp themselves up to the regular season.
Yeah, it's so funny that the spotlight's so bright on this team that if
Yeah.
they didn't have the first two preseason games they lost, and people are already worried. Like, is this team going to put it together?
Yeah.
And I just always want to remind people what the Celtics were. Think about the Celtics last year. Every team's different, but the Celtics were not 500. They were sub 500 going into January, I think it was.
Yes.
And obviously,
Yes.
they learned, and every team again is different, and every team's path is different. But like this team in particular, because of Ben, Joe Harris coming back from injury, other guys, TJ Warren, we don't know when he's going to come in. It's gonna take a while. And if anything, because of changes in guys actually being here, being healthy, this team will actually be afforded a runway. Where last year there was no runway, right? Like everything was moving around. Specifically about Ben, there's so many things you could try to think about when you see him play. You think about his fit, the role, but there's also his health and conditioning and all that. Just from a physical profile, what have you seen from Ben? Because back injuries are tough, and I almost feel like we're kind of forgetting that he had back surgery just because there's so much else to talk about. What have you seen from Ben and how he's played?
Mike, you nailed it. Like I think we focus so much on the fact that the sitting out last year in the holdout and everything going on with Philadelphia that you don't actually take into account he's coming off a major surgery, and a back surgery in it of itself is challenging to get back to this point. So I think watching him, I'm impressed, like how that goes back to how he's moving, how he's pushing the ball, how he affects the pace of the way this team plays. Just playing, I'm sure like you could be
No,
playing at the
don't,
park at the
Sarah. You were about to.
YMCA.
Sarah was about to
I
say,
was gonna say,
Mike. I'm sure when you play, Sarah, you
back
don't want
when
to
you
know what it's like when
play.
I play.
Oh, I do. But like anyone, it's an entirely different. You can run, you could be in the pool, like you name it, whatever you're
Yeah,
doing,
I'm a
rehab.
big jacuzzi guy. That's yeah. Okay, yeah,
In the
Sarah.
hot tub.
I
Yeah, the
so
hot tub,
appreciate the
yes.
fact that you're about to be like, when you play. It's like, okay,
I
yeah. Sorry
was.
to derail you.
We're all in this together.
Yeah,
But that like that's a real thing that's going to take some time. So for anyone that doesn't understand that that's part of the build up process, like that's how it goes. And I think there's the focus on the shooting, and to start the game he took a little right-handed floater, and all of these things, that's going to happen. But I think just in general, to understand the strengths he brings to the table, how he helps make the game easier for so many players around him, in particular, like you look at Kevin, you look at Kyrie, anyone else, Royce, when Joe's out there, when Seth's out there, Claxton, there are so many aspects of his game. It's like just get back to playing up and down the floor, rebounding, playing defense, like all of that stuff. And I think overall, like to think about the fact that he's coming off that back surgery, that to me is impressive. Like that to me is he's gotten himself to this point and then getting some regular season. And I think that's going to be a process. Like I think early on in the season, that's going to be something that it's going to take some time, and there's going to be some great games. There may be some ebbs and flows throughout that. And I think it's challenging, to your point originally, like there are so many eyes and there's so much scrutiny and there's so much attention on this team, which is not a bad thing. It's that's great. That means you matter. That means that people care about what's happening. But I think overall, even the conditioning aspect of it, like all of that stuff is going to be, to me, a work in progress. But the fact that he looks like this now, is able to play this way, is able to look like who we knew Ben Simmons to be, that's what he needs to be for this team. Bottom line, like to me, be who you were, be who you are, be the all defensive player, be the guy that can rip rebounds, run the floor, push the pace, facilitate, and then everything else I think will come a whole lot easier if he's just that person to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, what happened the end of last year when losing Harden in the trade and then not getting Ben is that I've talked about this before, but as great as Kevin and Kyrie are, what they do is so hard, right? Like no one has a better jumper than KD, and Kyrie has the deepest bag in the NBA. But Kyrie doesn't make anything easy on himself because of how skilled he is dribbling, and he really attacks the basket that way. And KD, I mean, KD is, he gets to his spot, he'll put up the shot, but those are technically inefficient shots, right? And those are hard things to do. Ben, what's so enticing about him on this team is that he just, what he is, what he represents. He doesn't be anything more than what he is, right? Like if he just simply is defender, like you said, but then transition buckets, he's the best or second best in the NBA creating open 3-point shots for his teammates. Just being that, like we've seen it a little bit in the preseason. He's had some just incredible like whip passes across the court in non-transition moments where, it would be passes that we usually don't see out of players besides like Harden had that capability too, that created open threes just by the speed and sort of the vision of the pass. He represents the possibility of this team getting easy buckets. And that's what I'm so excited about. I do this thing. I don't know. Do you care about the box score? Do you look at the box score and think about it anyway?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
for him, I don't even look at points. I don't almost even care if he scores because I'm already at the place with him where I just wanted to do the other stuff. I like his assist numbers. If they're up, fantastic. The rebounding, I can see him play defense. There's times when he's on the point guard and there's times when he's down low by the bucket, right? I hope he understands he doesn't have to. I know they want him to be aggressive, but just he provides so much to this team in all the ancillary things. And this team should have enough scoring with Joe and Katie and Kyrie and all that stuff. What is he? They put him at point guard a lot of the time. Do you think is that where you envision him as being maybe the best spot for him?
I think so. You nailed it. Like we put up a fireworks celebration banner like that's what it is. Like you don't need to be anything more than all of those things. And when you look back the past 2 seasons, I know it was many iterations of this group, the lineup, you name it. The ancillary stuff was what was missing. Like that, all of that stuff are the things that this group needed. Like, can you find ways to get easy you look at two of the best scorers to play this game, in Kevin and Kyrie, but how they score, to your point, like the degree of difficulty of the ways in which they score are so high, and with other guys around them. So transition buckets, like fast break points, points off, all of these things that normally get some second chance points, that has not been in the DNA of how this team has operated and functioned offensively. So to think about someone that can come in and do that and help how they generate points, is a really big deal. And even like I think last night, and for what it's worth, it's a preseason game, but Tennessee, like he just understands how to facilitate. It doesn't matter to me whether he's at the where he's at, because I think you're starting to see in the offense, he can initiate the offense, he can bring the ball up the floor and get into a set, but all of a sudden you go through a couple actions and he's in the dunker spot or that mention. Like that's where I think the variability of how defenses look at him, look at this team, look at what the lineup is. That's tough to guard because you don't know off of switches. Okay, he may be at the top of the key. He may be able to be that force that is able to penetrate, get in the middle of the floor, do a lot of things with his size, or he may give it to to Kai to KD, whoever, you name it. And all of a sudden he's a really, really tough guard because he's on the weak side block. And like those are the type of things to me that I'm so interested to watch. How do they use that? How do they utilize that within the course of the offense with who they have, the amount of shooting? I keep saying Seth, like you hope everyone's back healthy, able to be out there to utilize that. But they've got so much shooting on this team, the spacing, that to me will it eventually be a factor? Absolutely, but how you can just have him play to his strengths, that's exciting to me. And I don't think to me, it doesn't matter. Like start from what you bring to the table. There's not many 7-footers that can push the ball the way he does, rebound the way he does, play defense the way he does, see the floor, be able to hit a guy in stride in a shooting pocket. All of those things you take in a heartbeat. And so that's why I don't think belaboring the point of some of the other stuff is not worth it.
Is there anyone besides Ben, like obviously when we watch the game, your eye drifts to KD, Kyrie, and all that stuff. Is there anyone that's caught your eye? You're thinking like, okay, what could this guy be like? For me, it's like Yuta Watanabe. It's like just because he's so interesting.
Yuta!
He just brings the energy. He's got length and all that stuff. But is it Royce O'Neal? Is there someone that's like, okay, I want to see more out of this person. I don't know how he fits, or maybe I do know how he fits on the team. Is there anyone that stands out to you?
I want to spend an hour talking about Yuta, but I'm not
birthday boy. Do you know it's 3 birthdays today? It's Cam Thomas's, David Duke Jr.'s, and Yuta Watanabe. How crazy! 3 birthdays all today.
Wow.
If you want to have your child be a Brooklyn Net,
I always think about that. I'm like, what
born.
happened 9 months ago? 10 months ago?
October 13th. What's that?
10 months ago? 9 months ago?
What?
Like when
to conceive.
So who's that?
I was like, wait, what? I should know that. I have 2 kids. And there's a very famous movie, was the Hugh Grant movie, like 40 Weeks or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, sorry. Yes, derailed. Yes, who
stood out? I'm gonna go. Honestly, Yuta has.
Okay.
Royce O'Neal to me is. I was excited when they got him. I think that for what he brings, we can talk about him on the floor in a second. But like, he's always smiling. He's happy. He came from a great organization in Utah. His story is incredible. Getting to the point where he's at. And so I think in terms of just like glue guys, can I use glue guys?
Oh, yeah.
That trademark?
That's so it is trademark, and I will Venmo you $5, but
thank you. I thought I was gonna have to Venmo you. But like he's someone who you like having around and is gonna be an asset for this group, on top of the fact that what he does on the floor, his ability to shoot. He also, I obviously watched a ton of him with Utah on the Jazz. Like his want to create more, to do a little bit more off the dribble, in that second, wherever he's playing, whether he ends up starting or coming off the bench. But like there are aspects to his game with his size, with his ability to defend, on top of the 3-point shooting, but also like creatability and like put him in a ball screen, put him in a pick and roll. There's a lot of aspects of his game that I'm really, really excited about. And it stood out. And I was excited when they traded for him. However, I think just overall, like continuing to watch him, continuing to see him, how he also interacts with the group, like who he is as a teammate. I think to me, he by far jumps off the page of he's a guy you want on your team and you're glad that he's in this mix.
Is he a guy who could play? I mean, I know basically anyone could play any position now, but like, can he play the 4? Like, because I know his height. I mean, he's not. I mean, I guess him and Bruce Brown are probably similar in terms of build and height. But how do you see him fitting on the floor? Is it ultimately just in a thing where it's Ben, KD, Kyrie, and then it's like Royce and another shooter, right? I mean, I guess that's a pretty nice construction. How do you see him fitting?
Yeah, because I think he could. Like, I think it depends who he's on the floor with. So much of that to me comes down to, could he play the 4? Absolutely. But who else are you on the floor with? Who's playing the 5? What that looks like, who your opponent is, like to how you're matching up against whatever other personnel. So I think you talk about him being a big wing, and more often than not, you're thinking about him in the three spot. Um, but I think like overall, especially now with different teams, different lineups, how guys play, the sizes of like that to me doesn't matter as much because there's you're playing small, but across the board, if you have Kevin, if you have Ben, if you have Royce, whoever else you're tossing in the mix, like their size that's going up and down the lineup in a way that you don't have a big guy, but like that to me doesn't really matter anymore. So I think he is interchangeable, the three, the four. And I think too, like just understanding how to use strength. Like he's someone to me that understanding angles, understanding how to use your body, understanding how to use your strength, like that's different to me with certain players. And I feel like he's someone who understands leverage, understands where to be, and like if you're in the right spots, if you're understanding where to be on the floor defensively, if you're quick enough to get to certain spots, that sometimes can override, oh, I got a couple inches, or this guy's got a couple inches on me.
One more question, I'll let you go. Nets media day was maybe the most exciting media day in the history of the NBA. You had a lot of it was you, Ruko, right, doing a lot of the interviews.
Yes.
So you're one of the first people to have sort of like direct interviews with, Kevin Durant after his offseason, Kyrie after his offseason, Ben Simmons after his odyssey from Philly to here. What was that? What was that like for you? Is there pressure in that moment to think, I got to get something out of this? Because it's a tough environment. There's all these people around and these guys are sitting down, probably don't really, I mean, they know you, but they probably really don't want to be doing these things anyways. What is that like for you to try to succeed in that moment?
Thank you, Mike, for saying they probably don't actually want to talk to you.
Is that true?
No,
No,
I'm probably.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Always. No, one, I think Ruko, like, I don't know how well you know Ruko. He's just a ball of sunshine. And is very
Extremely
enthusiastic on
positive
those days.
person. Yeah, he likes even the worst Star Wars
Yes.
content, which is
Oh,
amazing.
like just so excited. No, I think they crushed all of that was after the like the group press conferences. I thought everyone crushed it. Like everyone to me, because I felt like I was saying the party line when we were talking about it or kind of digesting what was said before we did some of the one-on-ones. Um, Everyone was insightful and honest, and like there was a shared level of responsibility of whatever occurred, and people were kind of moving forward to the season. They also were saying, which you would hope for, because we all know this, just the idea of we can say whatever we want to say, but until we play, until we actually get out there, like nothing really matters. So to me, it was just like, who are these guys? Like, who are these guys that we're cheering for and rooting for? And who are the players behind this? And the understanding, even some of the other, like, even thinking about Joe or Seth, like the challenges they faced with their health or with the surgeries or coming back or last postseason. Seth was the one in particular I was thinking about. I was like, man, that was crazy for him last year. He was in Philadelphia, like probably thought he'd play there for a long time and
Playing
gets
for his
traded.
father-in-law and gets traded.
Playing for your father-in-law,
Yeah.
like you get traded. Wait, what? And now I'm with this team, and I thought it was, and your ankle's kind of bumming, and like there was so many things that when you think about these players, even Royce, like he made his NBA career, made himself an NBA player in Utah and spent his entire career there up to this point, what, 5-6 years. So I always think that we overlook, because it's such an aspect and such an important part of what the NBA is, what any professional league is, of trades, and you're coming here, you're going there, but that's major life adjustments for these players. And then you're with this new team, and oh, by the way, you're in this market and there's a ton of scrutiny, and you're with these superstars that everyone has got all eyes on.
And there's alternate side parking in
so
New York, and it's hard to,
yeah.
That's an unusual beast. 2 days a week, you have to move your
Oh
car. It's
man.
tough.
Oh,
I know,
what?
Sarah.
I
No
don't
one
have a
talks about
car,
alternate
so I
side
don't need to
parking.
worry about these
Oh,
things.
good. I'm glad.
I don't need to worry about these things. But that's the interesting part to me. And so I think it's just like remembering that, think about that. I also think for a lot of people that watch Media Day, thank you for watching Media Day. Like they sat through or watched 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was, of each of these guys talking for a long time. So what different nuances or changes or things can you bring to the table? But Ruko covers it. He's like I said, he's just a absolute ball of energy and excitement. I think he was actually talking too loud throughout the course of it. So when you say everyone listen, the ambiance of it, I think we had our headsets on, so he didn't realize it. But yeah, but it's good. And I think Media Day, like, that there's excitement and optimism, and you have all these things that you're about. But
it's a great time. I mean, I forget one of the ones I was at was when Jeremy Lin was on part of the team, and it's typically Media Day is all happiness. Obviously, this year we had to get some answers to questions that people had burning questions, and that's like my wish for this team is that there's just some level of normalcy for a little while, right? Like just enough of a runway, like we talk about, where they can maybe try to figure out how this team needs to grow and build, because every team takes a different journey. It's hard to deform yourself into a team that succeeds in the playoffs, but you can't just put it all together, right? Like even if Ben had come back in the playoffs last year, I don't think it would have made a difference, because how impossible would that have been? So, well, it's super exciting. Anything to promote, Sarah? What should we be promoting? I mean, you do so much in your life. You're on TV for CBS Sports. You're on Yes. You have a podcast.
The Glue Guys. I just want to promote the Glue Guys.
Glue Guys, yeah.
I do. I listen to you guys.
I appreciate it.
Regularly.
Thank you. That's all I care about.
Is it your children that had hand, foot, and mouth?
Yeah. I was going to say.
See, I do.
Sarah, hand, foot, and mouth. Now COVID. We all had it's
my nieces and nephews had this. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
yeah.
So I'm very familiar. I was also visiting in Chicago. They're in Chicago. And I didn't know the severity of it. Yeah. And then I also I was there and I was like, so am I gonna get this?
Can I tell you something a little awkward? My kid is patient zero for his entire preschool with hand, foot, and mouth. So we are persona non grata at Bethany right now. All right. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mike. I appreciate you.
Thanks.